Hi, I'm Danny and these are my diecast disasters. In this video, I will be taking this Hot Wheels Aristo-Rat off-roader and making it into a post-apocalyptic zombie pursuit vehicle. I'm not a fan of the glow-in-the-dark wheels and fluoro green chassis on this car, but I think it will make a really great custom. I start by drilling out the rivets and taking the car apart. The paint is stripped from the body. I use a small round burr on my rotary tool to roughen the surface and carve some dents into the car. The rotary tool is used again to carve some nails until they look like hand-beaten spikes and rods. I use a cutting disc on my rotary tool to cut some short spikes and different sized longer rods. Some Tamiya putty is used to attach the smaller spikes in front of the windscreen. Once this has cured, I tidy it up with some needle files and emery paper. I need a small amount of epoxy putty. I put a small bit in the trunk and use it to hold the longer metal spikes in place. I flatten out some putty. Using my craft knife, I cut out some small squares and rectangles. I mark in some rivet holes. Once these have cured enough, I attach my metal patches here and there on the car body. These are given a very gentle sanding to help tidy them up and make them a little bit thinner. I attach a small piece of chain over the spikes in front of the windscreen. I put a spare tyre in the trunk and attach a piece of chain holding it down. The patches and spikes on the car body are painted silver. I airbrush the body of the car with a thinned down rust effect paint. It is then given a wash. I grind some sepia tone and black pastels to a dust. A rust powder is applied here and there on the body of the car. This is given a coat of Tamiya Flat Clear. I then use some gunmetal, silver and burnt blue weathering powders. I use a dark wash to add some shading. I paint the trunk in gunmetal. Then a rust effect wash. Now a dark wash. And rust powder and a flat clear coat. This is finished with weathering powders. I am going to use these off-road wheels. I paint the rims gunmetal. They are given rust effect, wash and rust powder treatment. I am going to use the rear struts on this 4x4 model to raise the rear wheels on my off-roader. I cut the struts out and glue them onto the chassis. This is then painted silver. It is airbrushed with thinned down rust effect. It is given a wash and then given a rust effect powder and also some black powder. I roll out another small piece of putty and press the struts into it. I cut out some rectangles. I apply a tiny amount of glue to the struts and attach my armour plates to prevent any war boys or zombies damaging the rear axle. I use some Tamiya putty to fill in the gaps and strengthen the armour assembly. Once cured, I tidy it up with some files and emery paper. I paint this silver and then give it the rust treatment. I finish the base with some weathering powders. The interior is painted with silver and bronze. I paint the seat and the rat brown. The silver parts are given a rust wash. I paint the seatbelts red. The interior is given a dark wash. I add a small amount of rust powder here and there. I then used some weathering powders to finish. With the parts all painted and weathered, I put the car back together. So let's take a moment to be reminded of what we started with. An okay but pretty ridiculous looking Aristo Rat with glowing wheels and a bright fluoro green chassis. Well, that's hardly likely to intimidate Immortan Joe. That's a bit better. Gone are the glow-in-the-dark wheels and fluoro green base, replaced with metal patches, rusty spikes, and off-road tyres. The rear wheels have had a major raise, giving the car an intimidating looking slope and much more ground clearance. There's a spare tyre chained up top, and the rear axle has been armoured for protection. After I reassembled the car, I finished it with some sand weathering powders. Here is a closer look. This custom was a really fun project to do, transforming a $4 car into something that I think looks quite cool. A special shout out to all my new subscribers and everyone who leaves great comments on my videos. Thanks heaps. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.